Hello students, so we are continuing with the revision of classes and objects in C++. So today in this video we are going to discuss about inline member function. Now this is a very important member function. Now what is inline member function? So a function defined in a class declaration is by default an inline member function even without using the keyword inline. So whenever you declare any function inside the class declaration, so that function body to be executed is usually small. So the function code to be executed is small. So that is by default an inline member function. It is called as an inline member function even if you don't use the keyword inline. So inline member function can be used in the class declaration itself or outside of the class declaration also. So now what is the purpose of using inline member function? So here I've just explained in details. So to execute a small code within the function body, inline function can be used. So it is much preferable that whenever you have to execute a small program code within the call function, right, so you can use the inline function. Why you have to use that? So the purpose. Now it can be ignored during compilation time if the function body contains more line of codes to be executed, right? So it is not compulsory that when the keyword inline is used the compiler has to execute it. No, the compiler can ignore it, that is during the compilation time. If the function body can contain more lines of code, that means if the function body to be executed is large in number, or some other cases are there. So executing small function code without inline cause overhead. So that means unnecessary wastage of time, right? So that means like the processor is waiting for the function to get processed. So that means unnecessary time wastage. So because execution time taken between function calls, that is invoking calling function and transferring address to call function and resending it, is more than the time needed to process the small function body. So when you have a small function code to be executed and you're not using the inline keyword, the inline function, then what happens is that it causes overhead, which means that the time taken for the execution between the function calls, that means calling the function, then passing the address, the values, all right, and then executing the program logic, and then storing the address, and then transferring it the value back to the calling function. So that time takes more than actually needed to execute the function program logic. All right, so this is similar to something like you are going to the market, all right, you have to purchase, let's say, like a 10 rupees product, right, which can be easily available nearby the grocery nearby your house. So but it's something like you want to go to market because you want to buy the 10 rupees product from the market. So you are wasting your time and then your money, your fare, going to and fro. So it takes more time, and then it wastes your time, and then it wastes your money, right? So it wastes your energy. So instead of purchasing it from nearby, so it is something like that with the when you're executing a small function code without using the keyword inline, right? So by using inline function, the function body is directly copied when it is invoked, hence it reduces overhead. So when you use the inline function, what happens is that the program logic or the function body which is in the call function, all right, that gets directly copied or inserted when the inline function gets invoked, right? So let's see this through an example. So this is not a complete program but half of the program written, all right, but from here you can understand the concept of inline member function. So here you can see that the class name is employee, which is user defined data type. So the access specifier here is private, which means that these data members employee code employee name, employee designation, and salary are all private, so it can be accessible only within the this class by these member functions, which are the public member functions, that is input data, display data, and calculate DA. So here you can see that the keyword inline is used for the when this function gets invoked. So here this is a function prototype. These are the member functions, which are the function prototypes. So in this case, this is the inline function definition. So now when we use the inline function, you can see that the return type is also mentioned double. Now normally when you are when you are associating the class name with the class name with the function, that is the function prototype, right, you do not use the return type. But in the case of inline, you can see that the return type double is mentioned here. So here this tells that this function, inline function, belongs to the class employee. All right, so this function will return this after executing this formula, it will return the value back to the calling function. So in the main function, you can see that the variable DA is declared as type double. So the class employee is declaring an object EMB. So now the memory space is allocated to the object for the members. So now but since these data members are private, so the object cannot directly access these data members. So using the public member function, the object is able to invoke this member function so that it will execute the function body, that is which I have not written here. All right, so that it will insert the values into these members. Now DA equals to emp.calculate DA. So in this case, the object is invoking this public member function, right, calculate DA. Now when this function gets called, or when this function gets invoked, that means it will call this function, right? So this is the calling function, this is the call function. So it is calling this function body to be executed. But in the case of this, the keyword inline is used, because here you have only one line of program state, one line of code to be executed, right? So for such a small line of code, for a single line of code, if you do not use the inline keyword, then the time taken to call, invoke it, and then pass the values and then resending it back, it takes more time than executing this formula logic. So that's why this inline keyword is used. So when this calling function invokes this call function, then this function body gets directly copied here, right? This function body gets directly copied when this inline function gets invoked. So in that case, what happens is that it does not need to go to and fro, right? Since this function body gets directly inserted in the calling function, then after executing this formula, the value is directly transferred to the variable DA. Right, so that is the advantage of using an inline member function. All right, so the concept of the calling function, call function, does not get invoked in that case. The transfer does not take place, but the body gets directly inserted or substituted with the call function. Right, now here we have if you see in the solved exercises, that is number 11, right, there are similar problems on that. This is important. All right, so you have to solve these types of problems from the solved exercise. So in this particular problem, you can see that define a class student. The class name is student with the following specification. So here the private data members are admission number, S name. In the textbook, this S name is mentioned here, but is in the source code, S name is not mentioned, so you correct that one. All right, English, computer, maths, total, calculate total. So the specification is mentioned here, that is integer data type, 20 characters. That means this is a character array of size 20. All these variables are of float data type. Total is also float data type, and this particular function, which is a private member function, it will calculate the English plus maths plus computer subjects total. So this particular member function, since it is private, only the member functions, the public member functions, its own member function, another member function of this class can access this member function, right? So here under the public member function, input data and show data is there. So this will input all the values. After that, it will invoke this private member function. So using the public member function only, you can invoke or call this private member function, since the object cannot access these data members in the private member function. So here you can see that the class student has these data members which are private by default, because here the label or the keyword private is not mentioned here. The access specifier label private is not mentioned. So when it is not mentioned, always remember that the data members and the member functions are private by default. In this case, this calculate total is a private member function prototype declaration. So but two public member function prototype declarations are there, that is input data and show data, right? So so when this function gets invoked, all right, it will execute this function body. So it will enter the admission number, enter the name. In the case of name, instead of using the cin, we are using the gets function. As you can see that the gets function can accept ignore white space character blank space, right? So if there is a blank space between the student name, like first name dash last name, so the compiler will not generate any error, and then it will ignore the space, and then it will display the name as it is. Then marks will be entered, and then here you can see that calculate total. So this invokes the private member function. So within the body of this call function, the private member function gets invoked. So that is the only way through which private member functions can be invoked, using the public member function within the body of the public member function, right? So this will invoke, this will call this member function body to be executed. So that total equals to English plus computer plus maths will be executed, and then in the show data, when this function gets invoked, it will display the results, the output value. All right, so similar problems are there in the solve exercise. You go through all those, all right, and try to solve all those problems.